Let's talk about the Alaska summit, where we have President Putin and President Trump meeting to talk about Ukraine. Who will not be there? What can you tell us about this meeting?
Well, first, let's put it into perspective. The foreign minister for Russia told us pretty much everything we needed to know about what this is about as far as Russia goes when he showed up today wearing a quarter-zip shirt that said the USSR on the front of it. And it was done for two reasons, I think. One, it says we're back, we never left, and we're going to continue what we're doing, which is fighting Ukraine to try to put back together the USSR, and there's nothing you can do about it or this summit. Second thing is it's a distraction to take people's minds off the fact that Russia's killed hundreds of thousands of people in Ukraine and beyond in this quest to try to put back together this empire that Vladimir Putin wants to put back together. So that is really what's happening from the Russian side. The president said he wants to stop the killing. We know that he does. We also know he has designs on a Nobel Prize. We've heard a lot of people talking about that and promoting that recently. And the interesting thing about this, which is unfortunate, is that we've said for a long time, the U.S., no Ukraine without Ukraine in the room. And that's exactly what's happening today. The rule that was made to protect Ukraine has been broken, and Ukraine's not very happy about any of that today.
So President Trump is flying to Alaska, and Putin is flying to Alaska to meet there kind of in the middle to talk about this war that's happening. It's been going on for years. And President Trump said that he feels that Putin respects him and he respects Putin, and that something could happen. What are the chances that maybe a ceasefire or anything will happen during this meeting?
Well, something may happen during this meeting. We don't know exactly what it's going to be. And a part of the reason why we don't know what it's going to be is because I don't think either of them know what it is it's going to be. We know the two of them are going to meet together before everybody else and talk personally one-on-one with just translators, and they'll probably talk business. They'll probably talk about things that impact the U.S. and Russia and not about Ukraine. But one of the things that's really on the table, and it's very important here, is there's this discussion about land swapping. And, you know, I spoke with two members of parliament for Ukraine. One of them was Halyna Yanchencko, and today she said to me, look, you know, we have to stop talking about land as if it's just property.
We are talking about trade of land, which is not trade of land, but trade of people. Putin occupied not only, like physical square meters, but actually cities and villages with people living there. And after occupation, many Ukrainians were kidnapped, tortured, murdered, etc., etc. We are talking about thousands of Ukrainian kids who were kidnapped from their families and sent out to Russia. So Russia is treating our people under the occupation really severely. And when Putin is saying that he is ready to give away, some land, but then he wants additional lands that he did not even occupy, but for Ukraine to give it voluntarily, it sounds absolutely ridiculous. It sounds absolutely unfair, and it will never happen. And that's why it's important to have President Zelenskyy to be there present and communicate these things. Finally, I should tell you that Ukraine is a democratic country, unlike Russia. It's in Russia where president can decide everything. In Ukraine, it's Ukrainian society which decides. And if Ukrainian society are not happy with a deal, discussed by Trump or Putin, or even Trump, Putin, and Zelensky, society will not accept it. And this negotiation, or this deal will simply not happen. And that's why it's very important to have Ukraine participating and communicating our voice.
Do you think then that this meeting is just a big show?
I really hope it's not. And I hope it not just as a Ukrainian politician, but also as a mother of two children. My children are currently refugees. I see my children once every 3 months. And just like any other mother in Ukraine, which want to be reunited with my family, which want children to go to school and not to bomb shelters during the classes and stuff like that. I want this war to be over. Ukrainians want this war to be over, but through hundreds of negotiation rounds, direct between Ukraine and Russia, we realized that Russia are not about negotiations. And only way to actually have a deal with Russia is to force them. They don't, this is the only language they understand. They don't understand the language of diplomacy, but they really good. They understand the language of force. And if Trump can apply force toward Russia, toward Putin, then this deal will happen and these negotiations will be successful. So I keep my fingers crossed for Trump.
And I also spoke with Sofiya, Fedyna, and she said the part of this thing that's really, really dangerous is the fact that President Trump is meeting with Putin is actually sending the message to the rest of the world it's okay.
First, I do not think that the war will end unless Vladimir Putin wants the war to be ended. But he doesn't. He wants to go on, and he might see these negotiations maybe as a possibility of a small break to gather up all his resources to mobilize more people and to go on further. And as we've heard in Munich in 2007, Vladimir Putin thinks that the collapse of the Soviet Union was the greatest catastrophe of the 20th century. So he's going to restore it, and he's doing everything to do that. So Ukraine will be the first but not the last country to be invaded. That is my view on the situation. And the second, what I think that Vladimir Putin wants to negotiate with Trump because of several reasons. First, these negotiations and this meeting will be his small victory, as it will be isolation of Putin will be ended formally. And I think the last step in this ending of the isolation will be the invitation of Donald Trump to the Moscow. And if he comes there, it will be the full victory of Vladimir Putin. Because if Trump, as a leader of the greatest country in the world, the biggest democracy, will speak with Putin, then all the other countries will have no other obligation to be in isolation with to isolate Putin. They will just go on business as usual, and that is the biggest threat, because that gives more resources to Putin, more possibilities to go on with his views, and his views are totally undemocratic and unpeaceful.
The prospects for anything significant happening are super low.
It has no sense to talk to Putin. It only makes sense to force him into something.
Okay.
If Trump can force Putin into something, then Trump will be a winner.
Okay.
And as a diplomat and as a politician, I know that President Trump has very serious cards or tools, if you want it, in his hand. US has these tools.
Yeah.
In this hand, and the name of this tool is US dollar. 80% of global trade are happening within the US dollar system, which means that secondary sanctions is the queen of all sanctions. So if Trump will be serious about secondary sanctions, then this war will be over within a few days or maybe weeks.
First, Vladimir Putin understands only power. He does not understand negotiations. No, he understands negotiations as a weakness. So the more we negotiate with him, the weaker he considers us to be. That's the first thing. The second, the stronger we are, the less potential of further invasion has the Moscow Federation. Third, Moscow Federation feels the effect of sanctions. Yes, they are slow. The effect is very slow. But what we've seen on the recent tariffs on Moscow oil to India and the reaction of Putin, it was painful for Moscow Federation. And we need to find all the painful spots for Moscow and to push them to make it more negotiable and to make it to have stronger position than Putin has towards us.